So as I start every meeting, this is a public and recorded meeting of the Kubernetes community. So please welcome everyone, and we will get started with a demo. Today we have Rancher. Elena is going to give us a demo of Rancher, and then Seb Goa is going to give us another demo of Kompose. So Elena, why don't we get started with you?
Yeah, of course. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can everybody see it?
Yes, I can see your screen. However, you're a little quiet.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to get started.
I'll go through and try and mute people because it seems like people are coming in as well and talking. Elena, if you are talking, we are not hearing you. If you're being
sorry, no, yeah, I'm not talking yet.
That's fine.
I'm gonna get started. So, my name is Alina. I'm one of the engineers at Rancher Labs. I've been working on integrating Kubernetes with Rancher for the past half a year, and I would like to share this work with you today. So Rancher is the management platform for containers. It does the infrastructure management, access control, and orchestration for orchestration. We provide support for Mesos, Kubernetes, and Swarm. Sorry, I guess my connection got dropped. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure when my connection got dropped. Did you see any part of the demo yet, or should I start from the beginning?
I didn't see anything. Yeah, Zoom, I agree, Mike. Zoom seems to be having issues.
Yeah, so yeah, let me get started from the very beginning. So my name is Alina, and I'm one of the engineers at the Rancher Labs. And for the past year, I've been working on the integrating Kubernetes into Rancher, and I would like to share this work with you today. So the Rancher is a management platform for containers. We provide orchestration, infrastructure management, and the access control. And for orchestration platforms, we support Kubernetes, Swarm, and Mesos. And Kubernetes has been the most popular so far. Our users love it. So let's get started and add an environment. Environment in Rancher is the way to share the resources with the different users of your organization, and also the way to choose the orchestration platform for your environment. So I'm going to choose Kubernetes. I'm going to name this environment a demo. And I'm going to invite one of my peers to this project. And then I'm going to click Create. So then I'm going to switch to this demo environment. It doesn't have any hosts yet. And for Kubernetes, we need at least 3 hosts. So we set up the etcd cluster. So I'm going to add my hosts.
We have our first question, Elena, which is, does Rancher support Kube, Swarm, and Mesos all at the same time?
You can like one environment can support only one at a time, but you can create multiple environments.
Okay.
Each of them having a different orchestration platform. So I'm gonna pick the DigitalOcean, and I wanna create 3 DigitalOcean hosts. And I'm gonna pick the nearest region to me, San Francisco, create. So it starts in Kubernetes. First, we are waiting for all the hosts to be active. Then we're going to create a Kubernetes system stack. And then we are ready to go with creating service replication controllers. As it usually takes like about 5 minutes to create all the hosts and set up the Kubernetes, I'm going to switch to already running Kubernetes environment where I have the Kubernetes cluster set. All right. So here, under Kubernetes view, when we go to system, you can see the Kubernetes system cluster details. So this Kubernetes system cluster is comprised of multiple services. Some of them are Kubernetes specific, like controller management, kubelet, scheduler, proxy, Kubernetes API server, etcd. And some of them are Rancher specific, like Rancher Kubernetes and Rancher Ingress. Rancher Kubernetes is a microservice that listens for Kubernetes events and propagates certain things to the Rancher just to set up the Rancher networking and the Rancher DNS. And Rancher Ingress backs up the Kubernetes Ingress resource. So let's start creating the Kubernetes resources. So you can do it from the UI. Let's go to the application controller and add RSC. So we wanted to provide the most native experience for Kubernetes users, and we went with letting the user add the replication controller services as a template. So I'll just create a copy. So here, you can see all the details of your replication controller. You can see the pods associated with this, and you can see the containers. When you click on the container, you can see the container view here as well. The same way you can create a Kubernetes service. You can also click on the service and you see more details about the service, like its cluster IP address, select receiver any labels, and the pods associated with the service. In addition to providing users to do it using the UI, we also allow to use the kube control. So you can either do it from the UI, or you can copy the kube config to your local machine and run kube control from there. We're going to authenticate the user, and we're going to forward it to the Kubernetes cluster that belongs to this user. So using the kubectl, let's create the ingress controller. I'm going to create a simple ingress that forwards the traffic to the service that we just created. So right here. Okay, so you can see that it already got the IP address. So what we did, we created the Rancher load balancer, and this is the IP address of the host where this load balancer runs. So we can try hitting this IP address to see how it works. So yeah, you're forwarded to the Nginx. To see the details of the load balancer, you should also go to the System tab. And here's the Kubernetes Ingress LB stack. And here's the load balancer service where you can see the details. It forwards the traffic to Nginx to the port 80. And it has just one container. As a part of the Ingress implementation for Rancher, we are allowed to scale up your load balancer by providing the custom scale in your Ingress via annotations. In addition to the UI and ingress, we've also did a couple of other specific Rancher features, like we provide the Rancher DNS. It's kind of like a drop-in replacement for Sky DNS. It's available by default. And we also provide the Rancher metadata. So metadata allows you to get the information about your service, your container. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. Say I have an Ubuntu replication controller running. I'm going to go to the Ubuntu container. I'm going to console in. So here I get information about my container. Here's all. I want to get information about my primary IP. Here's the IP address. This IP address is coming from the Rancher managed network with a 1042 space. So we provide the overlay network by default, and you can access any IP address of your cluster, like any pod by default. So there's another feature that Rancher provides for Kubernetes. You can use the Rancher private registries. So here you just add the registry of either a Docker Hub or Quay.io or a custom registry. Just provide the credentials, and then this registry becomes available by default for Kubernetes. So we had to write our own credential provider on the Kubernetes side to support that. So you can create the services from the UI, from kubectl, but also we have something called catalog, where user can share their templates, Kubernetes templates. And you can deploy any application using any of the publicly available templates, and you can share your own. So let's look, for example, at the WordPress. So here, this is just a description, and then you can preview your app. Like here's the MySQL YAML, WordPress YAML. Just click launch. And you can see here under services, you see the WordPress front end. If you go to replication controllers, you can, no, not yet, bots. You can see the WordPress and MySQL as well. So we are enhancing our UI so you can clearly see like what application got deployed from one catalog. We're also gonna implement support for the upgrading the application to the latest catalog template. It's going to be available in the next Rancher release. Now, let's go and check our demo environment to see how it's doing. Still something going on. Kubernetes system stack. Oops. Something is off. It's probably still downloading the images for the Kubernetes services. So let's go back to demo. So I want to showcase something that is going to be available in the next Rancher release, like for Kubernetes system stack. We also deployed from the catalog, but from the system catalog, and we currently support Kubernetes 1.2.4 version, and we are going to enable support for Kubernetes 1.3 version in the next release. And once this version, once this template of this version is available, you will be able to update your Kubernetes system stack with a zero disruption. So for that, I'm just going to show how it's going to be done. I'm going to point my setup to use my custom catalog. So once this is done, so see here is the option upgrade available. Once you click on it, you see the information about the latest template of the Kubernetes stack. And you can preview it as a regular catalog item. And then once you click the upgrade, your Kubernetes system stack will get upgraded. There are some Kubernetes 1.3 features that we are particularly interested in implementing, like PetSet and Kubernetes. We are still finalizing our design, but it's going to be available in Rancher 1.2 version as well. And I'm done with my demo. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask them.
It looks like there were a couple in the chat. So will it support bare metal, and are there any limitations?
We do support bare metal. There are no limitations. Like we support any cloud provider as well as bare metal.
Is it tested on distros like Debian, Ubuntu, and Fedora?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Does this support deployments through the GUI? And that's the deployments.
We're actually working on it. We are bringing up the deployments and replica sets to UI as well as the ingress.
Okay. And then, Mike, you may need to come off mute because this seems to have been relevant during the conversation. Is that Cloud Dash init?
Right. She was querying metadata, and that looks like what I've seen associated, a few years ago with something called Cloud init.
So we run our Rancher. Actually, we run our Rancher network agent on every host. This is a system-dedicated container, and it does provide the DNS and the metadata services. So basically, when you hit the Rancher metadata, it gets redirected to that network agent container.
My question was, is that metadata, is that conforming to any pre-existing standard or pattern?
That I'm not really aware of.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, any other questions? We hit the ones that were in chat. I'll take that as no more questions. Thank you so very much, Alina. Yes, it was super fun having you. I saw Rancher get demoed and was like, we need to bring this in, so. All right, so we have another demo today because we had a pretty light agenda, namely no specific meaty topics to discuss unless we get there, but let's start with Sebastian showing us Kube again, or Kompose, sorry, not Kube.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let me know if it drops. I don't know, the quality was not very good today. Okay, so my name is Sebastian, and do I need to share my screen? Hold on. Oop, oop, oop. Share screen. Share screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk about Kompose. And I work on Skipbox. You may have heard of us a little bit. A couple months ago, we demoed K-Machine, but here we're going to talk about Kompose with a K. Tuna Nguyen is also online. He's the main developer of Kompose right now. And Chris also worked on Kompose. You can reach us on Twitter and so on. One of the things we did early on was to work on a Kubernetes toolbox, and we thought that we needed something like Docker Machine, but for Kubernetes. So getting a development environment for Kubernetes, single node, and that's when we created K-Machine. We also created boot2k8s, which was analogous to boot2docker. Now those two are actually superseded by Minikube. But if you want to see a demo of K-Machine, you can go back to, I think, February Hangout, where I did a demo. And I'm going to
we'll see Minikube, I think it is next week on this.
Next week, yeah. So K-Machine and boot2k8s, were there, and now it's superseded by Minikube. We also have a small Skipbox UI, which is analogous to Cactmatic, the Docker UI that you can run on your desktop. It's very much a work in progress, but maybe in a couple of weeks I'll demo that as well. But if you think about the Docker toolbox, now you're missing Docker Kompose, okay? And what did we do? Well, we created Kompose with a K. And what does Kompose do? Well, it takes a Docker Kompose file and translates it into Kubernetes primitives. So imagine you have a straight up Docker Kompose that works with regular Docker. Now you can easily generate replication controller services, daemon sets, replica set, charts, and so on. It's written in Golang, available on GitHub, open source, Apache license. It's on Skipbox/Kompose2. The two, there's a story behind it. We started as Kompose without the number, and we just rebooted the project last week, actually, because there is some interest in it. So we cleaned up the code and made it a little bit better. It's based on libcompose from Docker, okay, which has a Go library to basically parse Docker Compose file. Why did we do this? Because we think that developers use Docker to create images on their local laptop. That's how they start. And then they have multiple images. They write a Kompose file to write a full-blown application. Potentially, they target it at Swarm or Rancher. But we want to give developers the ability to take their Kompose file that they worked on and move to Kubernetes in a very simple manner. Okay. So that's what we have. So let's do a demo. I only have 5 minutes, so that should be quick. If you do Kompose and you look at the help, you'll see a couple commands: convert, up, ps, delete, scale. I'm only going to demo convert. Up, ps, delete, scale worked in the previous version. Right now, they might be a little bit broken because we are working on it heavily. And those commands also duplicate what you can do with kube control. But let's look at convert. So let's drop into a shell. Hopefully you can see the shell. So Sarah, yell if you don't see anything. So let's look here. We have an extremely simple Docker Compose, okay? It's just YAML. It says there is a ghost service, image ghost. And now what you do is that you do Docker Compose convert. And it tells me, oh, ghost.rc created. So ghost.rc JSON, and bang, I have my replication controller compatible, for Kubernetes. So that's great. I can also, give it to standard out, which is kind of nice. And if I want, I can also get the YAML if you prefer YAML or to JSON. So you get the conversion very easily. Let's clear that. And if you don't want to generate an RC, so of course, we have to make some assumptions on how a Docker Compose maps to Kubernetes primitives. The mapping may not be perfect, but for example, let's say that what you want is to generate a daemon set. Now you get a daemon set by saying --ds. If you want a replica set, we do replica set, just --rs, and you get a replica set. Okay, so that's quite nice. Now, what you want, of course, is you want to be able to submit that to Kubernetes. So here I have a simple Kubernetes setup. Let's look at my replication controller and services. I have nothing. So let me convert that Docker Compose. Okay, that's fine. Oh, standard out and pipe it to kube control create -f. And now if I look at my RC and services, I see that I have one replication controller that has been created. So I went from a very simple Docker Compose to an RC created easily. So now you have got lots of options in Docker Compose, and we support quite a bit of them, like volumes, environmental variable, and so on. For the ports, here you see I added a simple definition for Nginx with ports, and I used links, and I'll get back to that. But if I do the same thing, I convert this, and instead of using the default Docker Compose file, I say take my nginx.yaml, convert it to standard out, pipe it to kube control. Now I generated an Nginx RC and a service. I'm going quite fast here. Hopefully you can follow. And automatically, I generated an RC and also a service at the same time. Right now, what triggers the creation of a service is actually the link here key in your Docker Compose, and we're going to support Docker Compose v2 and potentially v3 when it comes out. So the trigger to generate the service might change. Okay, obviously here this is still Docker Compose version 1. One last thing that I wanted to show you is let's do a conversion into a chart, because I work on Helm a little bit. So let me convert that Nginx Docker Compose into a chart, and simple -c or -- charts. And now I created an Nginx directory, and this is a valid chart. So it created a skeleton. Of course, now you can edit that to make it better. And in the templates, now you have your RC and service definition in there. Okay, so bottom line, Kompose is a tool to convert your Docker Compose file into Kubernetes primitives. We're working to add all the different API objects, deployments, replication, pet set. We're going to add more, more functionality to it. And you're welcome to contribute online.
Sebastian, the big question that we're getting in chat seems to be, when would you choose Kompose over kube control? What are the differentiators there? Or is Kompose specifically for, I have Kompose with the C files, so I want to turn them into Kompose with the K files?
Yeah, so Kompose with a K, I mean, right now it's really a transformation tool. And once you've done the transformation, you can definitely fall back on kube control. But early on, we did support like Kompose PS, Kompose delete, Kompose scale, but they're kind of redundant with kube control. That said, if you're very familiar with the Kompose command line, the Docker Compose command line, you may stick with using Kompose with a K for doing the PS, the delete, and so on, if that was the question.
It seemed like that was a lot of it. So your expectation is that this is something you use when you are making some sort of conversion from Kompose with a C or learning Kubernetes, having come from the Docker Compose world.
Correct.
Okay.
It's to take developers who are familiar with Docker Compose. They've developed their Docker Compose file, and now they want to actually move to Kubernetes. They want to deploy in production on Kubernetes, and they can still use their Docker Compose, and straight up, they hit a Kubernetes cluster.
Fantastic. Okay, other questions out there?
Just a real quick question. It looks like by default, you're generating replication controllers, and you allow the option to generate other more advanced Kubernetes primitives. I was wondering why the choice for replication controllers specifically?
We started before deployments existed. So it was RC, and when we looked at the Docker Compose where you have services, we decided to map a Docker Compose service to an RC. Now we're gonna work on more advanced things. We've been talking about doing annotation of the Docker Compose file so that you could potentially create pods with multiple containers. By taking Docker Compose services and saying, hey, those two services, I want them in the same pod. So we're going to work on more features so that you can control what Kubernetes objects you generate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Sebastian?
And thanks to Janet Kuro, who's been sending us some issues and a couple PRs.
Oh, very good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sebastian. All right. So as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, we have a fairly light agenda today. So up next would be any SIGs, special interest groups, that want to do a bit of reporting, and we can take notes during that. And Alina and Sebastian, if you have some specific notes you want to add in to the working document for this about your demos, that would be super helpful. Links to your slides and any specific topics or points you want to make in there, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, SIG reports. Do we have any SIGs that want to report out? Do we have any SIGs on mute who are trying to report out?
I can say something about API-Machinery.
Excellent. Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, so we have a SIG meeting every other week. We met yesterday. We had a lot of discussion about clients and what we want to do going forward. So we talked about the Go client. We talked about Swagger. We talked about making other clients. If that's something you are interested in helping us accomplish, we'd love to see you in the API-Machinery SIG.
Fantastic. I heard rumors of, or I heard conversation about Python as well in there yesterday.
Yeah, I think we eventually want Python, Java, Ruby perhaps, and Go at least. Yeah.
The usual suspects.
Right.
Awesome. The other thing about SIG API-Machinery is David Eads is going to be co-leading it from Red Hat as well.
Yeah, so maybe you'll get more regular agendas sent on the mailing list.
Oh, we will figure it out. This is all practice. The community learns from one another and then tries to make things better and shares more information always. So it'll happen. All right, other special interest groups. Aaron, you haven't said much about testing recently. Can I put you on the spot?
Unfortunately, you can't. I just came back from vacation, so I have quite a bit of catching up to do.
Okay.
Happy to report out next time.
Okay, next week maybe?
I can say something about testing, or
Please do.
at least about merging, which is we're still working on getting our metrics together. SIG-API got a lot better. It's been deteriorating a little bit over the last week. Some of that seems to be inside Google infrastructure things, and some of that I'm not sure. I haven't looked in detail. I'm still trying to get one change into Ginkgo, which will let me do some automatic flaky test detection in PR PR testing. I'm trying to eliminate the problem where you have to go hunt down an issue and ask for a retest manually.
Okay, and so that's waiting for something to upstream into Ginkgo.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's Ginko? No, it's spelled something funny, isn't it?
Ginkgo.
That's it. Thank you. Okay. Cool. Notes taken. So that's SIG testing. How about SIG? I'm just going to start calling on SIGs because I think we should have more of these little conversations. I know SIG storage met this morning. Do we have anybody from SIG storage? No, maybe not. Okay. How about, I'm trying to see who's here. Vish, I see you.
I have a brief
Do you, has SIGNode met recently? Would you be interested in giving a little report on what's going on with SIGNode?
Interestingly, we didn't have a meeting in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
We've
yet to catch up.
Yeah.
So nothing interesting for this meeting.
Okay. But 1.4 planning, we talked about this. I'll just jump to 1.4 planning and stop putting people on the spot, but thank you all for suffering through that. The last couple of weeks between the closeout of 1.3, the fix-it last week, and then the holidays this week have been, of course, slower, as we're seeing by the SIGs saying, nope, haven't met, oh, I've been on vacation. But the 1.4 planning has been going on, and I'm going to push on everybody who is in SIGs, who has been doing their own SIG-level planning, and wants to send that up to the Kubernetes PM group. It turns out that the two people who have been reporting out from the Kubernetes PM group this week are also on vacation, although I think some of them are lurking here on bad connections, but I won't put them on the spot. So if you have work that you're trying to commit for 1.4 and make sure that they get into the list so that we can track the larger features, please make sure that the Kubernetes PM group has that info, because we're starting our Kubernetes 1.4 development this week. We collectively, all of us, and I'm sure some of you have been doing it already. And we've got one update and a couple of questions. So let's hit the 1.4 because I was just talking about it. Dims asks, is there a single place for the 1.4 list of items being proposed? And the answer is that is in the new features repo in the Kubernetes. So it's in the Kubernetes organization features repo. And that's the best place to take a look for that. And we'll put the answers in the notes, Mike. Thank you. There's a note here from Ihor saying that SIG OpenStack is going to have a big meeting next week about multi-tenancy. So if you guys are interested in that, please come join SIG OpenStack or reach out to Ihor for more information. Jason, you said you might be able to give an update on SIG-Cluster-Ops.
Yeah, today's kind of cool. We're doing a all-day reference architecture doc hack. So last time I checked, there was about 5 or 6 people working on the document, and essentially we're trying to get a little headway on there because it seems to be a precursor for a lot of the other things that we want to do, and also will hopefully help inform some of the other SIGs. So that's happening today. If you go to the SIG-Cluster-Ops Slack channel, there's a link to the document. Everybody is super encouraged to at least check it out and see if it's something you can help with. We super welcome the help. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And I've also heard a rumor that Eric Paris has found his mute button and he can talk about storage.
Yeah. SIG Storage met earlier today. There was an agreement to do a retrospective on the things that happened in storage in 1.3. Because storage was the big thing that caused us delays because storage didn't get all of their work merged quickly. So we're going to try to talk about that at some point and make sure we don't run into some of that again. The big feature that right now is trying to be discussed in storage is dynamic provisioning. Like, how do we get the system to create storage for you rather than you having to do it yourself? So there's a big push right now across the whole storage community to figure out how that's going to work. There's also the beginnings of rumors of one day the storage SIG might sometime soon get together face to face and try to bang through things, but that will all be worked out in the SIG. If you're interested in storage, it's an active SIG. Please come join. Pay attention, ask questions. We're all here to help. So
Sweet. All right, so did I miss anybody who dropped questions in here? Or let's see, single place, OpenStack. Yes, more things into the features PR, that and features issues specifically is where to look for the 1.4 planning. And I expect that we'll have a big agenda item next week for 1.4 planning, as well as I hope to bring forward a proposal for what an elders group would look like, so that we have an escalation point, sort of the Supreme Court of the Kubernetes community. So in the event that there are any sort of challenges or groups can't come to agreements, you know, sort of the relative consensus on their own, there's a way and a plan to escalate. Oh, hey, there's a Cassandra demo in SIG-Apps this week. Wow, we've got lots of updates from people. And there's video showing pet sets. See, real time. All right, I have nothing more than a couple of notices. Does anybody else have any more topics they want? Nope. All right, so that doesn't sound like we have a lot of further topics to discuss. So let me go through my notices quickly. The second half of the 1.3 community retrospective is going to be a week from tomorrow. We agreed that we wanted to take a look at the output from last week's first half and add more notes to that, and then go back and sort of do the drawing up of the conclusions next Friday. So please take a look at the notes that are in the agenda document, and I'll be sending them out to the mailing list later once the video posts. And take a look at those notes from the community retrospective so far, add to them, and we'll have more discussions a week from tomorrow. If any of you are planning Kubernetes meetups in July, it's Kubernetes' first birthday. And so the last week of July, we're trying to have a bunch of Kubernetes community meetup community birthday meetups. And if you're interested in that, then please send an email to myself and Cameron Zahidi, who, let me also introduce Cameron. Cameron is another new person here at Google who's going to be working on community with me. So I don't know if, Cameron, you have video handy and you can wave at the friendly face on the video. Awesome. Let's see, last thing. Oh, with that, of course, comes treats. So we've got some really awesome ideas from our friends over at CoreOS about some Kubernetes cookies that'll go out to people who are having meetups, and party hats, because what is a birthday party without party hats? And we'll figure out some other swag bits. And then last thing is, almost all of the SIG mailing lists allow public posts. I said this last week, but feel free, cross-post, share information, try to spend more time communicating out statuses on the mailing lists. I know a lot or most of the discussions happen within Slack, but once something is decided or agreed upon or general consensus, please try to send summaries out to both the special interest group mailing lists and out to Kubernetes dev, especially for things that are spreading across the project. As this team and this community and this whole crazy ship that we are steering keeps getting bigger, communication becomes a much more important part of this, because you can't just know what everybody's doing with us scattered around the globe across a bunch of companies and out in the world working on different things with different priorities. So the more we can communicate clearly, the better that will be, and the more helpful it will be for everyone to stay on top of things. Because nobody that I know can keep up with all of the SIG mailing lists directly. So please try to summarize up to the Kubernetes dev mailing list. All right, any other topics or notices? Last call. Nope. All right. See you all next week, July 14th, and have a great week.
Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys.